So far today, Israel has bombed Lebanon over 800 times, according to reports. Um, Targeted targets further afield than usual, not just near the border, Beirut and beyond, and also apparently killed the number three terrorist in Hezbollah. I don't know if it's the person who is number three as of today, or was number three and then number two and now is number not a number anymore. But anyway, Israel is stepping up its military operations in Lebanon in what is the uh, sort of most severe military operations day on Israel's part in Lebanon since 2006 and that war. And according to spokesperson for the Lebanese government, the deadliest day for Lebanese civilians since the end of the civil war, which ended in 1990. Now, what they define as civilians, I assume, includes terrorists, but according to reports, nearly 300 people died. We don't know how accurate those reports are, but it's not Hamas, the Gaza Health Ministry numbers that are just made up. It is more likely to be accurate or closer to accurate. Proof of that is that the number is less than 300 after hundreds of bombings by Israel throughout the day. If they were Hamas, they would have made a number that was in the very high thousands at the very least. So why did we go ahead with a title for an episode that we decided on a few days ago, by the way? War in Lebanon, Israel has already surrendered. Clearly, Israel is not surrendering militarily. It's still fighting. It's fighting stronger than it has fought since Hezbollah started its daily attacks on Israel on October 8th of last year. And so why the headline and why do we stand by that statement? Because look at Israel's official statements. First of all, they're very careful to even fully say this is a war. And when they do say it is a war, they say the stated goal is to have the citizens, the Israeli citizens living in the north of Israel, be able to go back to their homes safely. An absolutely worthy goal, a goal worthy of going to war for. And one thing that you hear a lot from Israeli officials recently is they bring up UN Security Council Resolution 1701, which calls for Hezbollah to not cross the Litani River from in Lebanon, which is 29 kilometers to the north of the border between Lebanon and Israel. Now, today Hezbollah's attacks went far beyond 29 kilometers. It's not that they can only shoot that far. So they can shoot from behind the Litani River into Israel, into almost all of Israel. I don't know if almost all, but certainly into where most of the population of Israel is. And so even the strongest demands of Israel are not demands that would eliminate the ability of Hezbollah to kill Israelis. It's just to get them not to currently continue firing rockets and bombs. This is what Israel keeps doing with the Palestinians, with Lebanon, with the Iran and all of Iran's proxies. It's let's de-escalate. Let's not have this happen now. And as we always say, they might agree. Hamas might agree. Hamas would certainly agree to a ceasefire. Hezbollah might agree. Iran might agree to de-escalate now. They're not going to agree to never again do this. What they're going to agree to is to not fire any rockets now and save it to a day where their victory would be certain, or at least the damage they can cause to Israel in terms of lost lives on Israel's side would be much greater. So yeah, Israel is in effect surrendering when it does not state a clear goal that the organization Hezbollah, with all its terrorists, will not exist, and that is the day when this war will end. Welcome to the Daily Objective. We are continuing our commentary on Israel's war on many fronts by the savages that surround it, and our more recent commentary is, of course, on the northern front with Lebanon. I'm joined by James Valliant. James, your thoughts on what Israel is doing today and what that means for the war in general.
Well, when the pagers exploded, my thought was good start. You disrupt their communications, you hit their leadership, and that is a good opening move in an escalation. And what has happened is an escalation on Israel's part. But given international opinion, Israel cannot admit that it's an escalation, nor can they really follow through on the kind of escalation that would put this conflict to bed. And so it's a strange kind of Alice in Wonderland world in which they engage in what is clearly an escalation. You've got the entire West now on the edge of worrying that Israel and Lebanon are, on the verge of war, and this could lead to a wider regional conflict as the terror. Escalation. That's the buzzkill word. If you say that Israel's escalating, they're the bad guys, right? Iran can lob hundreds and hundreds of missiles in an attack directly from Iran on Israel. That, so long as we can block all those punches, like I said the other day, that's not really cause for reaction when it's obviously a cause for annihilating Tehran. Similarly with Lebanon, the irony here is that even before October 7th, there was a UN line at that river, and Hezbollah has been freely operating in violation of the United Nations line that they drew there for some time now, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, as Razi says, Hezbollah has far more powerful and sophisticated missiles. They can probably reach anywhere into Israel. It would not have been, in my view, a preemptive strike to have attacked Hezbollah before October 7th. When Hezbollah started lobbing the 8,000 rockets they have now lobbed from Lebanon into Israel, it's sure, like I say, the escalation train or the preemptive strike train left the station long, long ago. No, and we have to ignore that line. Israel has to, and I'm glad they are ignoring that line and hitting in Beirut and, in effect, escalating it. But let's say out loud, Israel, until you have the courage to say out loud, yes, we are escalating. And guess what? Hezbollah and their masters back in Tehran need to worry about the escalation. Unless we have the moral clarity of saying, no, war now, you deserve it. We're not going to get any kind of decent resolution to this. This is just going to be the ongoing perpetual war in which apparently Western politicians, apparently our political leaders in Westminster and D.C., Washington, D.C., want a forever ongoing war in which neither Hamas nor Hezbollah, much less Iran, ever gets properly dealt with, ever even gets a proper blow delivered against them. No, we want to perpetuate them and make sure we get continued terrorism. We sure don't want to have a war with Iran, even though they're on the verge of getting a nuclear bomb. And now consider that in this context with all the attacks on Israel and American interests in the area. Should Iran get a nuclear bomb, the consequences could be horrific. And yet we don't want to escalate. We are putting our heads in the sand like irresponsible ostriches. And this includes Israel. Israel, come out and say it. We're escalating. We're going after Hezbollah. But as Razi says, the real point is we're going to destroy Hezbollah. We're going to eliminate their capacity to do anything ever again. We're not just going to stop the rockets now for temporarily. We're going to destroy their capacity in Lebanon to ever do this again. I mean, 12 innocent kids were killed in northern Israel on a football field. How many more kids do we have to wait for to get killed before we decisively destroy Hezbollah as such in Lebanon? I don't understand.
Yeah, thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. I have some things to say, but I want to address the comments in the chat. Now, I read them after I did my intro, so maybe some of them were before my intro. Those who weren't, go listen to my intro again. People who are complaining about the title, I think I explained that. The comment, clickbait equals modern advertising. It's not clickbait. Clickbait is you're promised one thing and you're given something completely different. I think I explained the reason for the title, and I absolutely not clickbait. One of the things that makes my point in the intro and the point you made, James, about how Israel should be saying, yeah, we are coming after Hezbollah, we're going to destroy Hezbollah, is and the fact that Israel isn't doing that is what happened today, which is Israel sent text messages to Lebanese civilians. Now, Lebanese civil, first of all, it's the fact that somebody even has the appropriate device to receive texts means they're probably innocent. I would guess at this point they're probably not involved in a terrorist organization if they're brave enough to have a cell phone. Remember, pagers were used because they Hezbollah was afraid of using cell phones. But yeah, and we see these videos of you can find them online of traffic jams because everybody's heading north in Lebanon, trying to escape what Hezbollah has brought upon them. But that says something. Look, do you not know that there are Hezbollah people around? Do you not know if you're in Dahia quarter in Beirut that is where Hezbollah is? If you're in southern Lebanon, do you not know that they are completely in control? If you're in the city of Baalbek in the east of Lebanon, do you not know that is a Hezbollah city? So come on, this is not necessary. The texts are not necessary. What's necessary is for people to see what has been happening since October 7th, what has been happening long before that, what Hezbollah is all about and has always been all about. And another data point that's relevant is that today Hezbollah is still firing rockets all over Israel. Now, Israel doesn't have the ability to make that stop overnight because it has for decades allowed Hezbollah to grow in power and to grow in ammunition. But what we saw today was things we haven't seen so far since in the past year, including rockets and missiles to Haifa, to Samaria. By the way, we're going to see in the reality show a video of them hitting Palestinian home, but
But this is, come on, this is a postmodern language. This is post-Kantian language where things are and they are not, where logic isn't metaphysical at all. I mean, this is the escalation that isn't an escalation. Look, if you're bombing in Beirut, Israel, admit that, we have stepped it up and we're going to step it up. And guess what? If that threatens a regional war, then you guys are the ones who need to worry about that. See, it's this weird kind of paradox where A is not A. Look, America has been at war with Iran for almost 45 years right now. We just refuse to recognize it. Israel is clearly in such a war with several groups, but the world doesn't want Israel to escalate to, quote, risk greater conflict. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is the other side that needs to worry about escalation and greater conflict, or we're not even beginning to win. It is a surrender right there when you say, well, no, this really isn't an escalation. We're just trying to limit their capacity, ... No. What you have to say is, we're going to go as far into Lebanon as necessary, and we're going to totally wipe out Hezbollah. They've thrown 8,000 rockets in our direction just since October 7th. They've killed children already. They've destroyed homes. They're aiming at homes. They've displaced 100,000 Israelis from their homes. At what point do you say no? And all of this since October 7th was in sympathy with October 7th. They are armed combatants along with Hamas in the same war. And obviously they need to be wiped out. And Israel has to, why the title makes sense, why we're not, it's not clickbait, is that given the way they talk, we can rest assured that they will stop far short of doing what needs to happen in Lebanon. Frankly, to do what needs to happen in Lebanon, they should have the support of the United States. Same with Iran, in my view. To do what's necessary in both Iran and Lebanon, and this is where I'm disgusted with my own country, the United States, DC is saying, oh, we didn't know about the pagers. We didn't. I mean, the worst kind of response you could possibly have, the most cowardly, pusillanimous, sanctioning of evil kind of response would be just that. And they trust Secretary Austin and Secretary Blinken to deliver that exact message. But as I say, there's a vacuum of leadership in America. Israel should be all out and doing what they need to do right now, because right now it's just words. Trust me. In a few months, it might be more than just words. I know they're holding back the bunker busting bombs, but it could get even more restrictive and worse for Israel. Act now, Israel,
Yeah.
and say what you're doing.
And we talked yesterday. By the way, again, some credit is due to Israel for finally doing what needs to be done, but it should have been done much sooner. And there's no doubt the pressure on Israel from its closest ally, the U.S., is tremendous. I mean, so yesterday we talked about that. Demand by Austin a few days ago, or a suggestion, demand, whatever you want to call it, to find a diplomatic resolution between Jews who want to live and those who want nothing other than to kill all the Jews. And we also, a couple of other things we were going to talk about. Last week, we were right before the pager attack. We were going to talk about this reports that Netanyahu is waiting to go to full-out war before, until Trump becomes president. He's basically not going to do it while Biden is in office, which, of course, again, as we mentioned, there is no guarantee that Trump will be president. There's no guarantee that Trump would back Israel. There's a guarantee that Biden and Harris will back whoever is Israel's enemies. But that is not a reason to not protect, not defend your citizens. So it looks like what Israel is doing now is that all-out war that is needed, but is it just a day or a couple of days of attacks? Is it a full-scale war? If so, why isn't it fully declared as a full-scale war? Israel didn't declare war on Lebanon. It kind of spokesperson mentioned, we're at a new stage of the war, but there has not been a clear statement by Israel. Enough is enough. Israeli citizens will go back to their homes in the north of Israel because we are going to destroy the organization that has made it impossible for them to go back. I saw some people in the chat mention Metula, mention Kiryat Shmona. There are cities that are empty. Daily life that is not going on because people had to escape. This is an unacceptable situation, and the end of it should be not temporary, not okay. We agree to give Gaza back to Hamas so that Hezbollah stops firing rockets from the north. It needs to be permanent, and it needs to be the end of Hezbollah. And by the way, something else that we've been hearing is for the past year is Israel can't fight this war on two fronts, so it'll take care of Hezbollah in the north after it's done with Hamas in Gaza. It's not done with Hamas in Gaza. It's now, and it won't be as long as it fights the way it is fighting. It's now doing stuff in the north that hopefully will be more successful than what they did in Gaza. But even if they actually said we're going to eliminate Hezbollah and did that, that would not be the end of it because there is Syria, which is the pipeline there to Hezbollah, and there is Iran, which is the source of all the problems. So yeah, if Israel needs to do
Hezbollah
this in
is loaded with
stages.
affiliates in Syria. Hezbollah is loaded with affiliates in Iraq. Iran's got other kinds of affiliates in Iraq. Yeah, Lebanon is just the next step, ladies and gentlemen. Now, it's true that when Trump effectively dealt with ISIS, which is one thing I'll give Trump credit for, that did tame. I mean, if you look back to the previous President Obama and all of his red lines about their using gas and so forth, that he allowed them to cross. I mean, he was just appeasing Syria up one side and down the other. It's true we have a little better a situation because of the destruction of ISIS in Syria, but as you point out, Lebanon's just step one. And ladies and gentlemen, Hezbollah just in Lebanon could have an army about 50,000 strong. What we need to be able to say is all 50,000 Hezbollah members in that active army need to be killed, maimed, or flee from the area. Nasrallah himself has to be killed. it is wonderful to see, as you point out, all these terrorist leaders. The leadership flow chart for Hezbollah and Hamas has been rejiggered and readjusted, and it's not quite. I'm not quite sure who is number two or number three anymore, but I'm still pretty sure Nasrallah is alive, and he's the number one in Hezbollah. He and any other of his operatives need to be killed. And by the way, his army of 50,000 monsters in Lebanon needs to be entirely killed, maimed, or fleeing from the scene. Otherwise, we're not having a victory against Hezbollah.
I saw this great cartoon. I don't know if it's from some Israeli newspaper, but it's a kind of a board meeting around the table with Nasrallah sitting at the head, concerned about the war and saying, any ideas? And the table is empty. But yeah, not completely empty. Nasrallah is still there, and this guy has been around for 40 something years. And Israel has had opportunities to take him out, and we criticize Netanyahu a lot. I don't know if any of those opportunities were under him. They were certainly under Ehud Barak, and other prime ministers had missed opportunities. But the missed opportunities, even of past leadership, should be a lesson on what not to do for the current leadership. It's not, okay, let me copy what the previous ones did that brought us October 7th, that brought us the past year of rockets all over the north of Israel. And no, let's have a paradigm shift, because we hopefully have learned a lesson that something different needs to happen here. Because if people say they want to wipe the state of Israel off the map and don't immediately do it, that doesn't mean they're not going to do it. That means they'll do as much as they can at any given step, and do it incrementally. And
They know how Israel is
don't let them.
powerful. Yeah, they know how powerful Israel is, and just look at how brilliant some of these intelligence operations have been. The pager operation and the walkie-talkies the next day, or the targeted attack on the Hamas leader in Tehran itself. Some of these responses by Israel show just how brilliant Mossad and the IDF can be. And they know that. The terrorists know how effective, intelligent, and technologically superior Israel is. And they know at some point, if they're really, really bad, America might actually do something to help them. So they're not going to do it all at once. They know they're in the disadvantage, but they know they've got one big advantage. America and Israel and the West in general are morally disarmed, are intellectually disarmed. I don't mean to use big fancy words here like epistemology or metaethics or something, but that's really the level at which they know they have the advantage. The West is paralyzed with a lack of confidence and moral clarity. They're paralyzed with a kind of altruistic theory about war in general. And that's the problem. And they know they can bide their time and play the long game. And in the end, win a war of super long attrition, even against a superior nation like Israel. But they're well aware that they have to take their time and do it incrementally, because Israel is objectively stronger. So,
Yeah, and look, we support Israel because of what an amazing country it is, for all its flaws. And part of what's amazing about it is that it's surrounded by savages who want to destroy the country and kill everybody in that country. And yet Israel actually manages to both defend itself, if not fully, but still defend itself, while also building this amazing tech nation. And even when you look at, we've criticized the reliance on Iron Dome and missile defense systems, but when you see these defense systems, even that, the fact it's shooting down a rocket from Gaza, or some of the rockets they shoot. This is not like a massive you know starship. Like, these are small rockets that are not easy to spot and shoot down. And you see these defense systems not just shoot them down, but shoot them down without harming civilians on the ground almost ever. All that
astonishing.
is amazing. All that, the pager attack, which again is one of the most amazing things. We're gonna, decades from now, if civilization survives, this is a moment that people are going to be talking about. But That's not enough. That is not you can keep preventing them from carrying out the attacks that they currently might be planning, but you won't eliminate them. You won't eliminate their goal unless you eliminate them. And that is the only way to do it. I really, really hope that Israel they're not going to do it, but I hope they take steps that are bringing them closer to it than we can expect from their at least public statements.
I guess you could see why they wouldn't, in the face, say something that would deeply offend, the governments in Westminster or DC, because they have so few allies in this world, and these days, the most maybe they can hope for is a abstention at the UN. But when it comes to America, maybe that's one thing. When it comes to the United Nations, there is absolutely no excuse to give any moral sanction to them, Mr. Netanyahu. I would say that the moral problem, really begins when you even answer the International Court of Justice, when you even give any kind of moral credit to the UN, which is anti Semitic and hostile to your very existence. They're not even pusillanimous cowards like in Washington, D.C., or abstaining cowards like in Westminster. But what we're talking about with the UN are people who are no better than Hamas. We've seen that with UNRWA. We've seen that with UNRWA. The UN wants your destruction, Israel. To sanction them at all is utterly self destructive, inexcusable, and morally a calculus I cannot frankly understand. When it comes to things like the UN, please, at the very least, Israel, get your act together and say, we're not even going to give a moral sanction to these international organizations. They truly want our destruction. And there's no way we're even going to acknowledge their existence, in effect. That's the only moral clarity that's going to really bring this war to a successful termination.
Yeah, and it's the kind of moral clarity we know that Israel doesn't have because Netanyahu is traveling to the UN this week for the whatever they call it, the meeting of all the leaders of the countries that happens every September. And why would you travel there? What do you think is going to happen? Except you, standing there speaking, and then a bunch of people leaving in protest, somehow, having a picture of them supposedly having the moral high ground, which of course none of them have. So I don't know. It's probably going to be interesting and newsworthy, but it's that's not where. First of all, that's not where he should be this week. He should be making sure that this war is won decisively. And I think
Stop
the only
wasting your
advantage.
time at the United Nations. American media is going to be filled with all the news of all the Palestinian protesters outside the UN building in New York. That's what's coming up here, ladies and gentlemen, promise you. But that just further emphasizes why. Well, if there was that kind of moral clarity on the part of Israel, I might have hope that there could be moral clarity on the part of Westminster and DC about UN, but that is a fantasy that it will never happen. Obviously, the politicians in both parties in any major capital of the West are still praying at the altar of the United Nations. And so long as that happens, again, I cannot be sanguine about the long term consequences, either to Israel or, frankly, in the long term, Western civilization generally.
Yeah, I think the main advantage for Netanyahu personally is that politically he's doing better by the fact that first of all he's finally doing something in Lebanon, and also by the fact that showing how much the world is against Israel is going to be good for Netanyahu with the alternatives for in Israel in Israeli politics as potential prime ministers. I think Netanyahu's enemies have done him a great service and he's going to continue reaping the benefits of that. Is Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar dead? We don't know, but we're going to talk about it tomorrow. That's a possibility that's been brought up. Schrodinger's terrorist tomorrow on the Daily Objective. That link is already up. You can go give it a preemptive like, help the algorithm. And the Ayn Rand Center UK is still live for another hour on YouTube. Make sure you click the link and go over if you're watching live or not for the reality show where we're going to talk about the West's Lebanon problem. It's difficult for those who have been telling us that Israel is evil. It's going to be more difficult with Lebanon than with the Palestinians. I think they maybe should have hedged. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, James, for joining me, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes on The Reality Show.
Be safe.